Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
It's not about the deal as much as it is building trust in the general partnership. Trust is the common denominator. It's not capital, it's not money, it's not anything. Trust.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And I am your host, Billy Keels, and I am really, really excited to welcome you back to today's conversation because this one is another amazing conversation. You're really going to love today's guest, his energy, his enthusiasm, his education, and also the fun that he brings to the conversation. So I know you're going to get a lot out of it, especially if you're someone who's out there and you're on the LP side of things or the limited partner, you're looking to invest with others, you want to learn what are some of the different vehicles that are out there. One specifically we're going to talk to in today's conversation about funds, but also just general knowledge as well. So one of the other things is, really quickly, you all know you continue to make this podcast amazing. You continue to help the podcast also rise through the charts. You're downloading the episodes, you're sharing the episodes. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the things that I cannot thank you enough for. So thank you so much for continuing to do that. Also, if you've not had a chance to leave your honest written review as well as rating, let me know what you like, what you don't like. You're already starting to see more of the changes that are happening. And that is one of the things that we are doing to continue to bring you more value so that you get the actionable content that you need to get closer to your goals and do that much faster. Also, many of you have already recognized there's a new home for every single podcast. You get the transcript, you get all kind of cool stuff. All you need to do is go to firstgencp.com/podcasts, and you can find every single podcast. The over 220 some podcasts, I think by the time you're listening to this, will be absolutely amazing. So go check that out. Once again, it's firstgencp.com/podcast to find every single podcast you've ever wanted to listen to. So listen, with that, if you have ever wanted to understand what it was like to go from a high paid role or a busy professional role and be able to parlay that into becoming a fund manager or investing with fund managers, then today's the conversation that you're really going to enjoy. A lot of content. Talk to today's guest, and he is someone who is building a community of over 57,000 people, continuing to educate, part of an amazing team. And you are really going to get a lot out of this conversation that we have with Kevin Brenner with Active Duty Passive Income. And you're going to hear that at ADPI Capital with Kevin just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional? Someone that in the previous 2 years has earned $200,000 and is expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe if you filed jointly, previously you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and you're also expected to do that this year. Or maybe if not, either individually or jointly, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you meet any of these criteria, then you're someone that the IRS considers to be an accredited investor. That probably means you're someone like an enterprise software sales executive. You may be an executive in a major corporation. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer, maybe a high-paid consultant. You may even work for a major sports franchise. The thing I know you have in common is that you continue to do the hard work. Like you're doing 100% of the work and you're only bringing home 50% of the reward because you continue to get crushed by your income taxes. If you are tired of this situation and you're looking for a new solution, then go to firstgencp.com/going long. When you get there, that's going to help you to start the journey so that you can begin to take back control of your taxes, take control of your time. And then also that means you're going to be able to spend more of the time that you want with the people that you love the most. And that is the way that you're going to get the personal freedom that you're looking for. So if you're looking to take back control, go ahead and go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. So if you want to understand how to go from being, well, let's say a very busy professional to transitioning into a real estate fund manager, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, I promise. You know why? Because today's guest not only is a graduate of the University of Miami, where he has a bachelor's in atmospheric science. That sounds super cool. He's also a former Pentagon Air Force meteorologist. Oh my gosh, this is going to be really, really awesome. He was stationed and managed a team of 7 in Kuwait, I think he was over in other places as well. I'm sure he's going to talk to us about that. He's a blogger. He's a vlogger. He is a person who creates loads and loads of content. He's also the director of single family education, as well as the host of the super, super, super popular podcast, Active Duty Passive Income Podcast. Gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Kevin Brenner. Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Billy, thanks for having me, dude. This is exciting. I love your energy, and I love the opportunity you're giving me to help add value to your listeners.
Yeah, man. It's absolutely what it's all about. Like, I can already tell we're going to have to kind of do a time stop because I'll talk to you forever. I can already tell just from the pre-conversation. I'm like, man, everybody's going to love today's conversation.
It's the podcast host vibe, man. When you host a podcast, it's like, I found my people.
Exactly. We're back. We're vibing. It's all good. So, hey, everybody, definitely make sure that you check out the video version because Kevin's got this really cool, I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I want you to literally go check it out. And it's just something that definitely, it gives me, I can't even say it. I almost said it.
You can't even say it.
I can't even say it. You know what? You just got to go check it out, everybody. Go check it out. You'll be glad you did. So anyway, check this out, Kevin. You know this already. As our guest today, as our special guest, you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the end. In the middle, you're going to get a bunch of questions. I just don't know what those questions are yet. So, but whatever your answers are, I'm sure it's going to add massive value to the Going Long family. So I just want to jump in, man. I want to get started with question number 1. Help me and the Going Long family understand, where is it that you live in the United States?
I live in fabulous Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Right downtown, got a Capitol view.
Well, fantastic. You know, it's one of my wife's very favorite places in the U.S. And so fantastic. Appreciate that. Second question. And it goes back to the thing that is over your right shoulder that when I'm looking at the screen to the left, and I'm not going to tell everybody what it is because you're going to have to check out the video version. But listen, Kevin, help us understand, man, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Oh man, last 24 hours. Well, not waking up with this little head cold that I got, but man, honestly, it's had to be. I mean, call it 24 hours, call it 72 hours. We've recently revamped our education program because, like you mentioned, I'm the director of single family education, and we launched a webinar, a masterclass last Thursday, and had 433 people register for this thing. And it was an unbelievable event. And I literally shared my entire story with all of these people. And call it last 24 hours overnight, I'm getting emails from these people saying like, oh my God, that was an amazing event. This, that, and the other. And it was just a huge smashing success. So I have to, on this podcast, on this platform, I have to shout out to Joe Buchanan, Kelly Madden, Nicole Bickham, the entire team, Jill Campbell, who helped put this event together, because I'm just the content guy. I'm the guy behind the camera, the microphone, like you.
Yeah.
And, but as far as doing all that back end stuff, incredible. And I really do think in that hour, we significantly influence the lives of active duty, military, and veterans in our community. Just like that, just because of the feedback, the response that you get. It's incredible.
Yeah, man, I love that. And absolute shouts out to your team. And yes, my team is the one that makes all this stuff look nice and pretty and sound great and all that jazz. And thank you so much for sharing that, because when you can positively impact one life, it's amazing. When you can impact 400 plus lives, that is, that's really scale, and that's being able to go out and add more positivity to the world. So I appreciate you sharing that. And you know what? The one thing that I also wanted to just say, Kevin, I just wanted to also recognize and thank you for your service as well. So
appreciate that, man.
Something that is greatly appreciated. Also, I have to make kind of a little confession, if you don't mind. The Going Long family knows this already, Kevin. I'm just
me and you, man. No one else is listening.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's right. There's no one else who's going to see the video. They're not going to see the thing that's over your right shoulder. Yes, of course they're here. They're here. No, so here's the thing. So I try to I like to keep the bar pretty high, and I keep a high standard. And sometimes that makes me do things that are impossible to actually achieve. One of those things is try to tell your entire backstory, like myself, tell your backstory. And I think it was 3.5 seconds. Mm-hmm. Never, ever was going to happen. But I try. It's one of these things that I like I said, I just I like to keep the bar high. So hopefully you will forgive me for trying something which is so absurd, but it's just what I do. But more importantly, could you help me? Like literally, could you help me? Because the entire Going Long family really wants to know your backstory. And there's no 2.5 or 3.5 second limit on you because you're the guest. So could you please tell your backstory in your own words? And I'm also going to ask you for one other thing, and this is really going to help the Going Long family. If you could talk to us about some of the major decisions that you've made along the journey, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Awesome. All right. So let's rewind the clock for 4 years, right? 4 years. 4 years, come back from deployment. I was active duty Air Force, come back from the Middle East. And, when you do that for your folks who are not in the military, it's all tax-free pay. I was getting combat pay. I was getting tax-free pay. I was in dangerous places, and I had a lot of money, and I did the responsible thing and blow it all. Motorcycles, Billy, cars, Billy, all the things that you're supposed to do when you're, 25 years old. Yeah. Literally walked in the Ducati store on my 25th birthday, walked out with a red 696 Ducati Monster 2015. Love that motorcycle. Mm-hmm. I've since gotten more, but that's my problem. The point is, I had no idea what the hell I was doing with my finances. I was a captain in the military. I was making pretty good pay and just spending it as fast as I can get it. And finally, and at this point, I'm stationed in Savannah, Georgia. So down in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm in a volleyball league with a really good friend of mine, and we're just playing, casual practice like beach volleyball. And we're in between matches, and he sits down, he tosses me a beer in the cooler. We're sitting there talking. I remember like it was yesterday. It was Friday afternoon, and he tells me, he's like, "Hey man, I just closed on my 7th house," and I was like, "Yo." No, you didn't, because I outrank you. I may make more money than you, so that's impossible. Number 2, you can't pay 7 mortgages. I have 1 car payment, barely able to make that, so also impossible. And he's like, "No, this is good debt." And I was like, "What?" Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. And going on, and he's telling me that tenants are paying this, and of course my mind is just melting on the volleyball court. Just had no idea what the hell is going on. He reaches into his truck, throws me Rich Dad Poor Dad. It was like one of the cover was ripped off. It was all beat up. It was in the back of his truck. He's like, "Dude, if you're interested in this or anything that I said, read this book, get back to me." 48 hours later, I'm at the bar with him, his agent, his mortgage broker, his investor friends, his everything, just completely plugged into his network, just being a sponge, not really like asking questions, but kind of just being there and surrounding myself with these people and listening to what they're talking about. And, and he's a West Point guy. And so all of his friends are West Point guys. They're all Army guys or veterans or something like that. And, obviously I have that connection being in the military. And it was incredible. So, fast forward 3 months, closed on my first quadplex. So it's a 4-unit apartment building, used my VA loan to get it. So 0 down. I think at the end of the day, I was out about $3,300. From there, we renovated the units. We've over doubled the rent in the last 3 years. And that building that I bought for $350,000 is now worth over $700,000. And at the time, I'm looking back, I was like, wow, I'm really glad I made that decision. Like you talk about decision-making processes. I was terrified. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that if Ray can close on 7 houses in 2 years, then I can close on 1. You know what I mean? So I think the thing that gave me solace about this is knowing that other people are doing it. And as long as you have the foundation, and of course I was reading a ton of books and listening to the podcast and doing everything and doing the analysis and just really nerding out over the whole process. But I dedicated myself to figuring out, okay, if these other people can do it, why can't I? And what I found is I can, and then I did. So after I closed that first quadplex, a couple months later, got another one right down the street. So we got another quadplex, and that one I raised capital from my first capital raising experience, brought in a college buddy of mine, living in LA, making great money, just I can't do anything with it in LA, and so we went in and we did a 60-40 deal. I got the 60, he got the 40, but he put the, what an $85,000 down payment on the building. Same story. We bought that for $318. We went in, we renovated it. I covered that with the cash flow and put that on credit cards and handled that business and handled the management and all that stuff. But we've over doubled the rents from when we initially bought it. And that one's worth $700,000, bought it for $318. So we forced appreciation, and that one's cool because we actually added a bedroom to each unit. Wow, it was one of these old, those old layouts where they had like the sitting room, because these were built in the 50s, these apartments. They're big. They're like 1,500 square foot. So we just put that third bedroom in there, jacked up the rent to meet the market value. It's been great.
So it's fantastic when you talk about increasing the rent to meet the market value, right? Because that means you are just, in essence, recognizing that there's an inefficiency in the market, right? Towards the tail end of the story. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you talked about before that. And one of the things was, you'd been 4 years in the Air Force, and you just come back and you're playing volleyball. It actually reminds me, and I know it's a different arm of the services, but it reminds me of because everybody's talking about Top Gun and stuff like that. That's Navy, obviously, but it's the beach scene, right? Everybody can recognize the beach scene.
Kind of the same thing.
Okay, and you're back and you're talking about that, but hopefully everybody heard you say one thing. You said that you were terrified, and you did it anyway. So I think a lot of times. Well, no, I don't even think. I'm sure a lot of times you face fear, and you kind of have two different reactions, right? You can move forward or you fall back. You mentioned that you were terrified and you decided to move forward. Can you talk us through kind of what it was that you were terrified of? You mentioned some of the part about the education, et cetera, but it's just because, Kevin, and I know you see this all the time, and everybody faces fear. But very few of us actually talk about what it was a fear of what and what we did to actually move forward. So maybe if you could share that part before we jump into the other things, because that one just really, like when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, let's talk about this.
Yeah. So, and you're right. This is not a me thing. This is an everyone thing. And it happens in anything you try something new. You try something new, you're going to be scared. And whether that's you're trying base jumping for the first time or bungee jumping for the first time, or you're buying your first house for the first time, it's scary. You're making a big commitment, right? And humans, like you mentioned, you touched on, Billy, it's kind of that fight or flight. It's in our human nature, right? We're either going to, that bear is going to approach us out of the woods, and we're either going to fight it or we're going to run. And if that bear in this metaphor is, your audience's real estate project or something that they're trying to acquire from Europe and into the United States. And they're like, well, I could figure this out, or I could run away and go and do something that I know. But it all boils down to fear of the unknown. Yeah. And the only way to vanquish fear of the unknown is to make it known. You educate yourself, because I guarantee you people are doing this. People that you probably know are doing this, but no one talks about it. It's kind of taboo, at least in the United States, a little bit taboo to talk about your finances. And if that's the same culture, then, that's out there. But honestly, the book that helped me, and it's not my favorite book, and we're going to talk about books later, but The Richest Man in Babylon. You read this book and you realize that, oh my God, people have been trading real estate for thousands of years. It's not hard. It's really not hard. And you start to make that fear of the unknown known, and you start to empower yourself, and you get more confidence. It's still going to be scary. Life's scary. If life weren't scary, then it'd be boring.
Yeah, I don't like boredom, and most people that are here, right? Because you're already listening, you're already watching. I'm curious if you've actually gone to the video version to check out what's over his right shoulder. But if you haven't, I'm sure you'll get to it eventually. And he's even pointing to it now. So I can't tease that anymore. I think that's about as much as I can tease that. So the thing is, it's the foundation. It's the educational foundation. It is getting the theoretical knowledge. It is also, you talked about surrounding yourself with other people, because one of the problems I used to have is I was a theoretical ninja. Like, I knew every single thing that the books could talk about, but 3 years in, they're like, okay, so how many properties do you have? And I'm like, I know the revenue minus operating expenses. I was like, okay, hang on a second. Let's go back to that. So one of the things that you have also talked about, and I do, we're going to get to the fun stuff, but it is so one of the premises of this show, right, is we like understanding about real assets, right? And that takes a number of different views. And I'm someone who has invested in everything from never single family residences, but for small multifamily ATM machines passively. I've really now been doing a lot in the energy sector. And so anything that is real, that's tangible, that produces cash and has high tax benefits, right? Mm-hmm. But normally, and you probably saw this too, Kevin, in the beginning, everything was, I assumed that I had to be a landlord and I had to buy a property that was down the street from me, literally down the street from me, because that's kind of what the book said. Well, this is the Going Long podcast, so it's about helping people feel comfortable and confident investing beyond your backyard. Now, I happen to know that you help tens of thousands of people across the globe to really get involved in investing. And that, just from a geographic perspective, is kind of a challenge. And it goes against everything that the books teach us, because you're helping people to understand they live in one location, whether for a short period of time or a long period of time, and they could be investing actively or passively in a location that's not even theirs. Mm-hmm. That's so contrarian, man. Like, how is it that you even have the gumption to teach someone to do that? Because it goes against what the books say.
Yeah, I think you got to flip that on its head, because our community, active duty, passive income, we're all military, we're all veterans, and we all understand that where we are is not necessarily by choice. So going back to my story, I closed on that first one, Billy, and I use a VA loan, right? So it's for your listeners who aren't familiar, it's a product specifically, an American product specifically designed for veterans. It's zero down, but you have to live in the property. You can't. It's not it's not designed for investors. You can hack it and you can make that work, but you have to live in the property. Well, guess what? I bought that. 3 weeks after closing, I got orders to Washington, D.C. I couldn't live in the property, so I got out of that stipulation, obviously. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make here is that people just get dropped orders, and you're going to Germany, you're going to Eastern Europe, you're going to Spain, you're going to wherever, and that just is what it is. So a lot of people, the vast majority of the military, of the American military, feel probably a lot like your audience, where they're like, well, how the heck? I'm an American and I can't even invest in real estate because I'm stuck over here in Africa, or I'm stuck here in the Middle East, or I'm stuck in Korea or whatever. But you can. And it all starts with what we like to call the ADPI triad, which is learn, network, take action. And you touched on learn, building that foundation. You touched on network, how important that is. But arguably the most important step is taking action. And people get that twisted so often. They're like, oh, taking action, like buying a house or buying something. I was like, yeah, that's a big action step, but why don't you email a real estate agent? How's that for a little action step? Break it down into small, tiny, tangible steps that you can take every single day, and they will build, and you'll start building momentum. You'll start getting more confidence, and you'll get over this analysis paralysis that so many people find themselves in, because they think that they have to do it all alone. And at the end of the day, it sounds cliche, but real estate's a team sport. Any type of real estate, it's a team sport. The way it's designed, the way it's, the way it functions, you're not doing it alone. So,
yeah. So in the fact that you are not doing it alone, and I like to say all the time here, #teamwork makes the dream work, right? Mm-hmm. And it's about finding others that complement the skills that you have, or being able to help you learn things that you currently may be ignorant about. And I mean ignorant in their meaning lack of knowledge. I'm ignorant in a lot of things. So one of the things that you talked about, but I think it's worth sort of repeating, or not sort of, but actually repeating, because I used to struggle with this a lot. I am a recovering perfectionist. I'm okay to talk about that now, right? I mean, it's one of these
not
things.
Recovering yet.
Yo, you still in there? Oh man, yeah. It's all good. Hey, well, listen, we're gonna help a couple people.
Okay, you got like 12-step program for me or something?
Yeah, well, we break this down into 3. It's we want to make it simple. We want to make it very simple. 12 is too many. You're going to the perfectionist thing. There you go.
Oh God, there we go.
I can relate though. I can relate. So here's the thing. Talk to that person that continues to is where you are, where I am, and have to fight against, right, that perfectionist in terms of trying to do everything at once. Help that person to break down literally. And I know you gave an example earlier, but it's worth repeating, because I see and speak to, and I know you do all the time, people that are stuck because they're trying to do too many things. Maybe just one example about, walk someone through like something that they're overthinking. Take them through. You can do 3 steps if you want, or you can do up to 12, but they got to be real fast. So take us to it. How do you help people with that?
So it starts and ends with your goals. And there are so many people out there that don't write down their goals.
Oh,
they have the New Year's resolution, right? Like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Yes. But if you don't write that down and you don't hold yourself, so it's not the goal setting that's really the problem. It's really the accountability and the lack thereof. If you don't have an accountability system set up in place, then you're not going to hold yourself accountable. And if you're not holding yourself accountable, whatever you're trying to do ain't going to get done. That's just a fact. So what I tell people is who are in this boat, who they may have done all the education, they built that foundation, and they know like they got everything that they want, and maybe they even have their deal criteria fleshed out, and they're like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. This is where I want it. I just don't know what to do. I encourage these folks to find other like-minded individuals, find a network, find a mastermind, find something, and bounce the ideas off of these other people, because not only are you going to get direct feedback on your idea, but you're also going to have a litany of accountability partners who are going to say, hey, Billy, I know you were trying to get that quadplex. You close on that yet? How's that going? Do you have any questions? What is something the matter? Is that, and when someone calls you out like that, one, it's like, and if you haven't done it, you're like, oh crap, I really need to do it. And then the other thing is it kind of forces your hand, because as human beings, no matter where we live, every human I've ever met has an instinct to save face. Like no one wants to be like the butt of the joke or anything like that. So if someone's calling you on your stuff, then you stand up and you say, oh, this is, or you own up and you say, to be honest with you, I just haven't been working on it. I've been scared about this, that, and the other. And that opens that conversation up. That opens everything up to solve the problem and work together. And then of course, when you're in a mastermind, you have the opportunity to team up with other people. Yeah. And you can together go much further. Just like you said, teamwork makes the dream work. So it's, I'm a big fan of masterminds. I'm a big fan of writing down your goals and taking these little action steps every single day and finding some sort of accountability system, accountability partner, whether they're other human beings, whether you have a scoring system or a rubric or something that you keep, whether you're doing, OKRs, like in this book that we're going to talk about later, whatever it is, do something, because if you do nothing, you will get nowhere.
Yes. Doing nothing definitely takes you nowhere. And when you, like one of the things that, and sometimes maybe Kevin, people don't actually say this. So I'm going to dare to say this. When you have the accountability, because that's what's key. Having the goal is one thing, writing it down takes it to another level, because then you're actually crystallizing what you have said you were going to do. You then visualize it, you see it, and then you have to start taking the action. I love your analogy of, if you want to lose weight, what exactly are you going to do? Are you going to drink more water? Are you going to do this? Are you going to, whatever the steps are, you have to do that. You have to keep track of what you say you're going to do, because if you don't keep track of it, what gets measured gets done, as you know. But there's also this part of, yes, we all like to save face, but then you may actually find that your accountability partners are helping you realize that you haven't really gotten clear enough on why you really want to do what you want to do. And you may find that you have to reevaluate, really, not just what you want to do, but why you want to do it. Because things are going to get challenging at some point in time. And if your why is not strong enough, and I know it sounds cliche, you're just going to stop. You're not going to move forward. And so that is another really positive thing, or one of the positive outcomes that having an accountability partner or an accountability group can help you to get clear on the things that you want to be able to do. If you're not clear on the why, that your accountability partners will help you get clear. And then you'll find that you move much faster. You start to take those steps that you've written down, and you're getting closer to your goals and your dreams. So,
absolutely.
Trusting that you're enjoying today's conversation. And you know what? If you're tired of getting crushed by taxes and you're looking for greater freedom to be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, make sure that you go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. Let's get back to the conversation. So I want to talk a little bit about funds, my friend, because I know this is something that you happen to be very, very passionate about. And because you are also in the education area, help us understand, what exactly is a fund? Maybe there are different types of funds, and why would someone really want to find out more about that, how that particular vehicle could help them get closer to whatever their goal is, the one that they're now clear on why they want?
Yeah, absolutely, Billy. So, just rewinding super quick back to my story, I had these small multifamilies, and I moved to DC, and it was just insane to buy something here that cash flowed. And I knew the entire time that large multifamily is where I wanted to be. And I knew that being a fund manager is where I wanted to be. So I started educating myself. I started doing exactly what we're talking about. I paid $10,000 for a course on how to do funds. I networked my butt off. I read every book that was available. And I just started doing that learn, network, take action, surrounded myself with other fund managers, other hedge fund managers. I met people. I did these things. And I actually took action. I started my own private equity firm. Totally failed.
Totally flopped. I love it. I love it. You learned a lot. Listen, everybody, he's going to tell the rest of the story.
Yeah. But it wasn't actually, no, I say that jokingly because anything isn't truly a failure. It's just another way to learn lessons. And exactly. I did. And I learned so much, and I learned everything that I did wrong. We're going to cover that in the last questions. And I reversed the ship, and we rebuilt something from the ground up that makes so much more sense. And what I learned was that it's not about a fund or a syndication or whatever. It's about a solution. And that's what ADPI Capital is. That's what myself, Victoria Griggs, Adam Labar, Tim Kelly, Eric Upchurch, Mark Yancich, Spencer Thomas, that's what we've built, and Jill Campbell as well. We built the solution for the military community because we've had so many people. We're up to 57,000 people in our military community, all real estate investors, but they all come to us, Billy, and they're like, hey, I'd love to invest with you guys. What are you guys working on? Like, how can we get in? And at the time we had nothing. We said, well, we'll educate you. We'll teach you how we do it. Let me show you. And for some people that's great. For other people, not great at all. So they I'm too busy and this, that, and the other. So we built this solution. And really what a fund is, to answer your question, it's a series of special purpose vehicles that is designed to raise and pool capital in advance, and then put that capital to work in different, in our case, real estate projects. So we're a little bit different in that how we set up the fund is we set it up specifically for the military community. You don't have to be military. You don't have to be American. You can be foreign. Doesn't matter. But we set it up knowing our community and understanding what their barriers to entry were. And the number one was, listen, I don't have $50,000 to put into this. That's a lot of money. The second one is, I'm not accredited. I don't have $1 million net worth or make $300,000 a year. I can't get into these deals. And the third one was, well, these deals are great, but there's so many freaking fees associated with them. Why am I even going to do this? It's just feeing me to death. Mm-hmm. So we looked at all of those, looked at the competition and said, all right, well, let's just $500 minimum. We set it up in a way using a Reg A Tier 2, which is a more convoluted way of saying like we're able to raise from unaccredited domestic and foreign investors. Mm-hmm. And from there, we went and said no fees. No, we're not doing any fund level fees, nothing like that. And we're able to do that because we have the ADPI ecosystem. Because on the other half of the education, the Tim Kelly, Eric Upchurch, Adam Labar, those guys, they're training. Like I train single family, they train the multifamily operators. And these guys are constantly going through, and we have this thing called the MMA Heroes, but they're going through, and the Multifamily Academy Heroes are finding deals and doing deals, closing hundreds of doors a quarter. So now we're in a position where we're taking capital, we're raising capital from our community of 57,000 military real estate investors, pooling it in the fund. And guess where that capital is going? Right back into our community of operators who we taught to find deals. It's the ADPI ecosystem, and it's a wonderful, wonderful machine. And we're just excited to be able to kick it off. And, from the investor standpoint, it's, you get all the great things that you get about investing in multifamily. Like, you get diversification, you get tax benefits, you get cash flow, you get equity. It's great.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that, as you get these benefits, I think is fantastic. And you're coming back to your triad once again, right? You're learning, you're networking, and you're taking action, and having a vehicle. And I'm a big believer in this. I personally don't believe that there is any one perfect vehicle. There is no perfect vehicle because every single person's context is very different. And so what I love about what you are doing at ADPI Capital is really saying, hey, listen, we know who we want to serve in a very similar way. I know who I want to serve because I come from a very specific background. And what I want everyone to hear is you're very clear on who you want to serve. And so that is the way that you are moving forward. That does not exclude anyone that wants to be a part of what it is that you're doing. And so it's a very similar way, Kevin, like, I have software sales executives and executives working for enterprise software companies. And today we have, clients who are in NFL franchises, or we have clients who are big business owners and small business owners and people who are not software sales executives. But the thing of it is when you're crystal clear and you know how you want to help and who you want to help, it also opens up a door for many people that want to be a part of your mission, part of your vision, and the things that you talk about that really are following along with the triad, which is being able to learn, being able to network, and being able to take action. So I love that everyone from the Going Long family can also learn from your example and see that the type of vehicles that you provide that are adding value through the funds. I didn't know if there's anything maybe you wanted to add on that.
Yeah, no, there is, because we recently did a LP masterclass, a limited partner. So when you invest in a fund, for your listeners out there, it's a real estate limited partnership, right? It's so you're a passive investor, 100% passive, right? Mm-hmm. And we had this amazing masterclass that Eric Upchurch and I ran, and just answered all of the questions. We had 25 questions that you should ask your LP. And what we realized is at the end of that, well, before that we knew this, but what we stressed to the audience was, listen, there are great deals everywhere. You can be in a syndication here, you can be there, you can be ATMs here, you can be, you could be in whatever. And they're great deals. It's not about the deal as much as it is building trust in the general partnership. Trust is the common denominator. It's not capital, it's not money, it's not anything. Trust. And by meticulously building active duty passive income over the past 5 years, we've been able to obviously build trust in our military community. But like you said, it's non-exclusionary. We have people who invest with us from all over the world. Yep. And it's just because they know, like, and trust us. And for your audience out there, it's super, super important, especially when you're in these alternative investment opportunities. You have to be able to know that you can get in touch with these GPs, trust them, and understand that, hey, what they're doing is in my own best interest, because that's really what it's about.
Yeah, and being able to know, like, and trust, and the fact that we can connect with you here, we understand what you are talking about, and also, and you've mentioned him a couple times, and you can go to the archives, Going Long family, because Eric Upchurch was one of our very big first guests as well a while ago, and so you can also hear Eric's previous conversation and be able to understand more about what they're doing at ADPI Capital. So one thing that I do want to ask you, Kevin, before we get into the Going Long Final Three, because I can't believe it's almost that time. Maybe someone who has not been as familiar with, and I don't want us to get caught up in the vehicle per se, but the funds, because people have heard, okay, well, I'm just going to do this one specific type of investment opportunity. But could you talk to that person who's maybe it's their very first time with this today, and you're the person who gets to educate them? When you talk about the fund, maybe some of the pros for investing through a fund, and then maybe one or two things that people want to keep in mind that I don't necessarily want to call it a con, but just something that they definitely want to keep in mind, just for that 101 level of pros and cons.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And everything has pros and cons. So putting that out there, you can call it a con because everything has it, right? That's decision making, right? So with regards to the pros, so if your audience is familiar with hey, I'm going to invest in a syndication, that's a single asset. 99.9% of the time, it's a single asset. And that's great. And that asset could be awesome, have great projections and great metrics and looking good in a great market. But God forbid that goes south. You're out. And every investment carries inherent risk. So you have to understand that when you go into these, right? That's just how it goes. But when you invest into a fund, you're taking a more diversified approach because, our fund specifically, I can't speak for other funds, but our fund specifically, we're into large B and C multifamily. We're into mobile home parks. We're into self-storage facilities. And, we touch on other things like short-term rentals, luxury short-term rentals and things like that. So we're very diversified with different markets, different operators, different business plans. So by sheer, statistics, really, it would take some monumental something to happen to all of those things go badly, right? Like so you're hedging a lot of risk that way. So for folks who are, a little bit more risk averse and they're getting into being an LP for the first time, a fund is a potentially good option. Mm-hmm. On the other end of the spectrum, things that you want to look out for is you might be sacrificing a little bit of return on investment, because in a fund, you're getting a blended return solution. So if all, we're this first fund, Equity Fund 1, we're raising $10 million, and that $10 million is going to be put into 3 to 4 different deals. If all 4 of those deals are home runs, fantastic, everyone wins. The chances of that happening are, admittedly, they're probably going to be a couple, and I'm using a lot of baseball terms here, but singles and doubles, which is great. But maybe your audience doesn't understand baseball. So
I think most of us do. I talk about it every once in a while. They're good. They're good.
So from that perspective, you might not get the 50% ROI home run grand slam deal that you could get on a single asset, but you're getting a more diversified approach and you're hedging risk. So that's kind of the biggest, thing that people think about there.
Absolutely love that. And like you said, it's a decision point, and everyone's context is different. And this is just another vehicle. Once again, mm-hmm. It's another vehicle that you can evaluate. If it's the right vehicle for you, then you move forward. If it's not the right vehicle, well, then you get more education and you move to the side and say, hey, look, it's not the right time. And then you get more education and you decide it's the right time. So listen, so here's the thing. Kevin, I told you in the beginning, man, I was going to want to talk to you forever. And I just I would like to keep talking forever, but you know what? We kind of have to get to the Going Long Final 3, man. The thing is, I never ask any of our special guests, and today you're our special guest, the Going Long Final 3, unless you tell me that you're ready. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I was going to be really nervous if you said anything other than I'm ready.
No.
That's only
scared.
Happened once.
That's only happened
okay.
once.
Just lean in. Just lean in. You'll be good. You'll be good. So here's the thing. We started with you over kind of that Washington, D.C. area. I'd like to bring things back to this side of the pond, because this is like now my new adopted home side of the pond. And could you help us understand, Kevin, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
Yeah, listen. So my wife and I were supposed to go to Portugal. We got married in August of 2020, and we were honeymoon Portugal. Had the whole thing planned out. It was going to be great. We didn't go because of COVID. We couldn't go. So we, instead of doing that, we set up Airbnbs around DC, and they've been very successful. And actually, last couple months ago in April, we did our first trip to Paris, funded fully by the revenue from our Airbnbs, which is fabulous. And we stayed in the boutique hotel, 8th arrondissement, just loved it. So Paris is far and away my favorite city. My wife and I are huge architecture nerds, and she's a commercial interior designer. She designs boutique hotels for a living all around the world. So we were just totally nerding out about that. And it was a phenomenal trip. So far and away, Paris, we will be back.
He said Paris in the 8e arrondissement, which is absolutely phenomenal. So for everyone that doesn't know, most of the Going Long family knows, like I started my 1-year sabbatical 21 years ago in Paris, France, and I got lost along the way. So Paris is I've got a big place in my heart for Paris as well. So I'm glad that you had a wonderful, positive experience that was basically thanks to investments that you'd made. You pushed through the fear, you got in your short-term rentals, and that generated the capital for you to go over and enjoy your time in Paris, which is phenomenal. So here's the other thing. Question number 2 of the Go Along Final 3 really has a lot to do with the things that I have seen and experienced from having interactions with really successful people. And Kevin, I would consider that you are someone who's extremely successful. You're impacting tens of thousands of lives on a consistent basis. And hopefully you will agree with me, Kevin, that one of the things that separates really successful people apart from everybody else is that they, unlike most people, whenever they have a plan, they put the plan together, they go out and they execute, they get everything right perfectly the first time, which then allows them to go and move even. I can't believe I said that. Don't worry, Kevin. It's just a joke.
I know.
Kevin's like,
I was
what?
laughing. I'm just like, I was like,
how am I going to get him out of this?
Interviewing the wrong guy.
How are we going to get him out of this one? No, it's a joke. It's a joke. Listen, I like to have fun here. So, and the entire Going Long family knows, and they send their little comments in and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, it's a joke because the thing is, Kevin, successful people make a bunch of mistakes, man. They make a lot of mistakes. The reality is really successful people probably make 20 to 50 times more mistakes than everybody else. It's just the reality. But hopefully, now the first part was a joke. Now, this is not a joke. This is me being serious. The thing that really successful people do every time there is a relevant mistake or learning opportunity, or call it whatever you want to call it, when it's relevant, every single time they stop, they learn from the experience, and then really importantly, right thereafter, they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again. Now, I don't really necessarily want you to dwell on or think about too much the learning experience or the mistake that was made, but really what was the lesson that you took away? And I would love for you to share the one lesson with me and the Going Long family that we need to hear today.
Yeah. So, I kind of touched on it earlier when I set up my first private equity firm. I knew full on what I was doing and how to do it and all this stuff. And I said, oh yeah, we failed when we did this, but we did invest in some projects, and those projects had returns for our, we raised capital and we did it. But the biggest mistake that I made was I just assumed that my target demographic of investors was going to want to invest. You just think that like, at the time we were looking at real estate agents and they were making tons of money in the American market, just, all of this stuff. But the biggest thing that I found over time was that these are salespeople, and it's all about commissions and now. And in investing, it's got a long tail to it. It's about generational wealth. And they didn't seem to understand that. And I thought at the time that, hey, I'm an educator. I can convince these folks how to, I can talk to these people. And what I learned was that very few people were receptive to that idea, because in their minds, they're like, oh, well, I could just take that 100,000 that I'm going to put with you, and, whatever, I can go and buy a car. I can buy a G-Wagon and all this stuff and get a tax benefit. Like, they didn't understand, about multifamily real estate, which I was surprised, because they're selling real estate full time, that they're selling. And the relationship was very transactional. So we ended up doing a full stop and looking at everything and saying, hey, this is not going to work. And partners and I looked, and we decided to part ways peacefully and amicably, of course. But what I did was I took that lesson, and the real lesson was community. And I took that lesson and went to Mark Yancich, CEO of Active Duty Passive Income, and Tim Kelly and Eric Upchurch and others, and the founders. And I said, hey, we should do this. And not only we should do this, but I'm doing it. I know how to do it, and I will lead this effort, and it's going to be a smashing success, because we have the elements that I didn't have before. Before, I was only raising from accredited investors. So you had to be a really, really top producing real estate agent, pretty much. And of course, then on top of that, the educational gap and the knowledge gap was there. So when we looked at it this time, we said, no, we're going to structure this differently. Yeah, sure. It's going to be, 10 to 15 times more expensive in legal fees to set up, but that's worth it, because our community is worth it. Right. And our community will appreciate this. And we did that. And we removed those barriers. We removed the high minimum investment. We removed the accredited investor status, and we brought everyone into the ADPI ecosystem. And by doing that, we've really unleashed the power of the community that we've built. Because up until now, that community was great, and they're amazing. They're asking questions, and they're doing stuff, and they're learning, and they're educating, they're teaming up, and they're partnering. But now they have the opportunity to team up with us, the people the reason they came into the community, because they saw us doing these massive deals. And the crowdfunding option. It's just really exciting. So if your listeners are interested at all in crowdfunding, you can look that up and give it a Google and look up Reg A Tier 2 and just understand the differences. It's really, really, really cool. And like we talked about, it has its pros and cons, but it's something that I think is really going to change the face of active duty passive income. And it's going to help thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Which, being able to help thousands and thousands of people is absolutely fantastic. And we're going to give everyone an opportunity to specifically know more about what you're doing and about your Reg A Tier 2 fund here in just a couple seconds if I keep my mouth shut and get to that point. But I like chatting with you. But and also too, it's being able to recognize that the lesson here is really being able to start with community, being very clear with what it is that you want to do. Start with community and being able to then build from there. Which goes back to what you talked to us about a number of times, which is really helping people to learn, helping people to network, and then more importantly, be able to also take action, to move from theory to actual practical knowledge, application, and experience. But I've got to ask you question number 3, and then I'll let you go. Not literally, because I have a couple things to say after that. But anyway, listen, here's the thing. So we talked about the knowledge. For those of you who are watching the video version, you've already seen, because he's kind of showed what he's going to share with this already. And he's pointing to this thing. You got to see it. You got to see it. So here's the thing. So help us understand, because it's about feeding our minds with knowledge. What is one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
Yeah. So, for folks who are trying to get their mind wrapped around kind of goal setting and understanding that, the book I'm reading right now is called Measure What Matters. Yep. And it is incredible. It's about objectives and key results, and it's about the system it's the same system that is implemented at IBM, Intel, Google, Adobe, like all of these massive. And I'm sure you're familiar, being in software.
Yes. Yeah. It was one of required reading. Reading. Yes.
Yeah, and it's incredible, and we're looking at we're implementing that, and we're looking at traction for our own company here. But it's helped me clarify my goals and really have that accountability system in place. And it's really great. And in today's world of, software project management tools and all of that, like, you can do so much and you can get so clear on where you want to be. And I think that organization is something that has helped me grow 10x in my own personal business. It's helped ADPI be what ADPI is today, the largest military real estate investing company on the planet. And like that is just something that I think is, you got to be clear about your goals. You just got to, and you have to tie tangible, quantitative data to that. And that's where the perfectionist Kevin comes out.
Yeah. See, we keep going back to this. It's an inside joke with like us perfectionists and recovering perfectionists. Yes. So everybody check it out. Measure What Matters. And don't worry if you're running on the treadmill, you're cooking or something like that. We're going to make it really easy. There's a little link and all you have to do is click the link and you'll go straight to Measure What Matters. So, I seriously, like, every single time these conversations, like, they literally fly by. Kevin, I knew it was going to happen from the very beginning. We started chatting in like on the green room before. And then once we got started and you're telling us about, you spent your 4 years, you came back from your 4 years, you're in Savannah, Georgia, you're doing and excuse the pun, the Top Gun scene. You guys are out on the beach, but as Air Force, not Navy. And you have this conversation with the guy who's kind of like lower ranked than you, and he's telling you he's getting his 7th home. And I know your brain is going, what in the world is happening here? And so then as your curiosity kicked in and you realize, like, hang on a second, I got to find out about this because I just got this really cool Ducati and I'd like to get more of them. But if this guy is doing it in a way, then I need to find out about that. And so then you took action, right? You understood who that person was. You started learning. You were networking already early on. And then you decided to take action. You're sitting there. You're a fly on the wall. You're absorbing. And then you start to take action. You get your very first, you get your very first quadplex. And then before you knew it, you had to head out, but you had the first experience. And so then you realized, like, how can you continue to do this over and over and over? At the time, you went out, you got your private equity. It rose and then it crashed and burned. And then guess what? You thought, you know what? Even though you were afraid and you'd faced the fear before, it was time to face it again. And this time you realized it wasn't about you doing it by yourself. You intentionally went out and built community from the very beginning. You use something that was a disadvantage in the beginning, you turn that into an advantage. And from that point, not only have you come together, build an amazing team, an amazing community, you continue to learn together, you continue to network together, and collectively, more than 57,000 people globally, you continue to now take action together. And so I know that, so many people in the Going Long family want to understand, like, yeah, Billy, yeah, but he's already talked. Just ask him the question, man. So help us understand, Kevin, what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you, what it is that you're doing, and also what you're doing at ADPI Capital?
Yeah. So the best way, honestly, is just to head over to adpicapital.com. So it's adpicapital.com. It's a great little website built by yours truly, but again, perfectionist nerd. And
it is very nice. It is a very nice website, everybody. Go check it out.
It's going to break down everything that you need. And if you're looking to take that little action step, that little tiny action step, you know what? As I say this, because most of your audience is European, it might not actually work. We have a text number.
Don't worry. There's a lot of people that are in the United States, and a lot of people. U.S. and Canada, a lot. So So
if you want to get involved and you want to get on our text list, it's super, super easy. All you do is you text ADPI to 33777. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you the information, get on the email list, and you'll get everything that you need. Also, when you go to our website, definitely check out the LP Masterclass. It is an hour and a half of pure value content. No pitch, no spin. Just this is, if you want to be an LP in something, these are whatever. This is what you should do. And we're talking, with Eric Upchurch, who's an LP in 1,500 doors. So he's been around the block.
Yeah. He knows a thing or two. He knows a thing or two.
And of course, listen to the Billy's podcast with Eric to learn more about Eric. Yes,
exactly. And if we can find that, because I don't have it right here, you can even include that link to the podcast with Eric. And then we got two of the gentlemen from ADPI Capital, and you can double your learning. So listen, Kevin, I knew it was going to be a blast, lots of value. Really appreciate you deciding to invest your time with me and the entire Going Long family, man. And I just want to say thank you very much, and really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right, awesome. Give me literally 15 seconds and then we're out of here. So listen, everybody. I don't even think Kevin could have done it any better. He talked to you about the theory. He gave you the very, very simple steps that you can take to be able to take action, push through your fear, have your accountability partners. He's also helped you to understand about learning, about networking, and also, most importantly, is about how you take action, moving towards your goals much faster, and also not by yourself, with others. So take today's conversation, take action, right? Share today's conversation with 2 or 3 of your friends. It's going to allow you to go from the theory to the practical application of the knowledge that you've heard. So as you're doing that, I'm going to be here preparing the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.